Welcome to This Week in Hell, a news show where we take a look at events from the previous week. I'll be your host, John Wilkie, and first up today is the Justin Timberlake situation. At the time of recording on August 9th, they were back in court to continue the details of the case. He has pled not guilty to drunk driving, but to catch you up, he was pulled over under suspicion of being drunk in Sag Harbor on the 18th of June. He refused a breathalyzer test at the time, when he was given the option to do so, nor did he request a blood test. I don't know if that's something they offer in Sag Harbor, but I do know that some people don't trust breathalyzers and may prefer to have a blood test as they feel it's more accurate, or they actually are drunk and they're hoping that by the time they find a hospital they might have sobered up a little bit. Timberlake is claiming he had one drink only, and Sag Harbor Justice Carly Rasse did suspend his license at the time, which is standard. At a hearing on August 2nd, Timberlake's license was suspended. Also, his lawyer was admonished by the judge for attempting to poison the case, to tilt the public perception away from the law enforcement officers who did their jobs correctly, and create sympathy for Timberlake. According to NBC, he was threatened with a gag order if he persisted. Timberlake's lawyer is insisting that he was not intoxicated, as Timberlake himself is. He does have a history of excessive drinking, however. At a concert, Timberlake claimed, "It's been a tough week while performing in Chicago. He's currently on tour, so whether or not he'll be attending these court dates in person remains to be seen. At present, today's hearings were adjourned and will pick up again in September." Just do the breathalyzer, man. And next up, let's talk about the Mr. Beast controversy. Never been a fan of his. He kind of come out of nowhere for me. He makes nice chocolate. That's about the extent of what I know about him. However, recently a former employee, what's his name, Dogpack404, released a video, and at the time of recording, part 2 is now up, with an alleged part 3 on the way, claiming all sorts of underhanded and dishonest, and, in some cases, potentially illegal behaviour on the part of Mr. Beast and his associates. The big thing that's been brought up is illegal lotteries, which he seems to be guilty of in his early days, but has become more à fait with the law and more nuanced as time has went on, so they seem to have learned their lesson on that. They also claim that videos that have random subscribers featuring in them, the whole thing, subscribe to Mr. Beast, you could win money, all that sort of thing. Oftentimes they would not be random subscribers, but they would be friends and family, just people within Mr. Beast's orbit. And they do admit that on one particular video, or videos maybe, I was seeing them talk about one specific video here, that it was in fact true because some of the contestants had tested positive for COVID. That's easy enough to prove. And in that situation, it does seem understandable, although a little bit dishonest not to make that disclosure that not all participants were subscribers. That then brings us to the claims by Rosanna Pansino, who featured in a series called Creator Games. She's claiming the video she was in was edited to make it appear that Logan Paul had in fact finished ahead of her. While these practices do violate FCC rules, the FCC doesn't regulate YouTube. It's dishonest, certainly. Trust has been broken in that regard, but while it may change in the future, nothing is legally actionable at present. At least not in that regard. At present, this story is still unfolding. There have been other allegations. I watched some of the more recent video. I'll be honest with you, it's a lot. I may watch the rest of Dogpack's other video at a later date, but it's a lot to get through, just emotionally. There's someone who was a contestant on one of the shows who is quite literally claiming psychological and physical abuse as a result of the conditions he was forced to live in, and even when he requested they let him out, they didn't let him out right away. They forced him to stay there until he'd slept, which was possibly to make sure he wouldn't harm himself, but more likely to make sure he'd be in a better frame of mind when he left and would look more kindly upon them. But these are all accusations at this point. They're accusations which have to be proven, which may have to be proven in a court of law, and there will be more in this story as it develops. And next up, we come to a rather bizarre story that's been unfolding for the past week or two in the women's boxing in the Olympics. Imane Khelif, 25, from Algeria, and Lin Yuting, 28, I believe, from Taiwan, were both competing in the women's boxing and doing fairly well. They've both had losses over their careers, but in this particular occasion, been doing quite well. However, both of them have been accused on separate occasions of being trans women, which shouldn't really be an issue, personally speaking. I think if you've transitioned, have at it, whatever. I couldn't care less. I couldn't care less about boxing anyway, but in any other situation, whatever, it shouldn't matter. But J.K. Rowling and Logan Paul, because of course there was a controversial situation he could stick his nose into, so he got involved, have accused Imane Khelif of being a man. But J.K. Rowling and Logan Paul, because of course there was a controversial situation, so of course he had the opportunity to stick his nose in, have accused Imane Khelif of being a man after an incident where her opponent stopped the fight. Her opponent was a boxer, has been for quite some time, and I think you know when you get hit wrong, you know when something's not quite right, and that seems to be what happened here. She knew something wasn't right with the fight, and it might be bad if she continued. And she has wished Imane Khelif well, says she hopes she continues and does well. She has taken the gold at time of recording. I saw just before I sat down to record this, Imane Khelif has actually won the gold for Algeria. So good job there. Well done. You certainly deserved it after the nonsense you've been put through. Logan Paul, has apologized for his comments in that way that people that can't really take responsibility do. J.K. Rowling, completely unsurprisingly, has said nothing by way of an apology. It's a very ridiculous situation, and those who are familiar with this channel will know that I roll my eyes whenever people like this get in the public eye with their nonsense. I don't know what they're expecting to achieve, but we're very transpositive here on Channel Hellfreezer. It should be noted that IOC President Thomas Bach has said, I'm going to quote this here, so forgive me for not looking right at the camera, "Let's be clear, we are talking about women's boxing. We have two boxers who are born as women, who have been raised as a woman, who have a passport as a woman, and who have competed for many years as women." And I think that's all that needs to be said in the situation. And finally, in entertainment news, before we move to the Memoriam section, Taylor Swift. Now, she's not done anything wrong. She never seems to really do anything wrong. But two men, 17 and 19, have been arrested after planning an attack at a Taylor Swift concert in Vienna. A third man, who was 18 years old, named Biran A., has also been arrested in connection with the proposed attack. The first two have not been named as of yet. 3 concerts in Vienna have been cancelled as a precaution, which is understandable. While fans were very disappointed that the concerts, of course, had been cancelled, they were very grateful at the work the law enforcement in the area did to keep everyone safe. However, it is worth bearing in mind, while people will get their money back from the cancelled concerts, a lot of expense has been laid out for people who have flown internationally. You got plane flights, you got hotels, all the various other expenditures you might have making an international trip. And that money will not be returned. But that being said, I suppose that is far better to lose out on a little cash than to lose out on your life. Also worth noting that London dates for the Eras Tour are unaffected, and the police are working with organisers at the venues to ensure that they go off without issue. This was confirmed by London Mayor Sadiq Khan. Okay. And now we'll move on to the In Memoriam section. The Reaper was especially busy this week. We couldn't include everyone, so I've selected 3. First up is Patti Yasutake. Now, I'm actually familiar with her work quite well because I'm a Star Trek fan. That's a big secret though, don't tell anyone about it. And Patti played Nurse Alyssa Ogawa on Star Trek The Next Generation. She even appeared in some of the movies. She got her start in television actually, appearing alongside William Shatner on T.J. Hooker, so there was a Star Trek connection right there from the beginning. And she'd go on to appear in a number of other popular shows from the era. She even appeared in some other Trek-related projects over the years. Her last gig, if I'm getting this correct, will be in a video game called Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, which is a role-playing game by the Ryoga Gotoku studio, published by Sega. Patti passed away on the 5th of August at the UCLA Santa Monica Medical Center of lymphoma. She was 70 years old. R.I.P. Patti. Next up, we say goodbye to Billy Beane. Billy was a baseball player who played for such teams as the Detroit Tigers, the LA Dodgers, and the San Diego Padres. He had a long and respected career, but is also notable as being the second baseball player to come out as gay. He came out in 1996 to his parents and 3 years later in 1999 to a journalist for the Miami Herald. He had remarked that he was pleasantly surprised by the support he got from his fellow teammates. As we all know, the world of sports can be very homophobic. He would become the first diversity chief of Major League Baseball. Bill passed away at his home. Bill passed away at his home of myeloid leukemia. He was 60 years old. And last up, we say goodbye to veteran actress Connie Chiume. Connie was from South Africa, and she got her start in 1989 working on television. She would later go on to take a number of roles, but in recent years she's perhaps best known to Western audiences. But in recent years she's perhaps best known to Western audiences for her appearance in the Black Panther movies, where she played the leader of the mining tribe. She also worked with Beyoncé in the film Black is King. Connie passed away in hospital in Johannesburg on August the 6th. She was 72 years old. And that brings us to the end of This Week in Helm. If you enjoyed it, please do hit the like button. That lets YouTube know you enjoyed it and will encourage them to recommend the video to others, which encourages me to make more. The news never goes away, so there's no reason to stop. Until next time, thank you very much for watching, and take very good care of yourselves. Thank you.